Feedback. Feedback.
I think you gotta turn your phone down or pick
I
up.
know. I am.
All right, I'm just gonna put you guys.
Okay. So is that better? No. Y'all just hang with me for a second. Hang with me. Hey, everybody on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch. I am like on 4 or 5 different platforms at the same time tonight. So y'all just bear with me. Show me some love and affection and all that. So April says, Natty. Hey, what's up, Stephanie? How are you? So y'all are going to see my face going like boom, 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 boom. Because tonight I am, hey, what's up, Chrissy? So I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitch tonight, all at the same time in 2 places on Facebook. So, welcome everybody. Get in the room. So y'all will notice that let me see this. Okay, got it. Y'all will notice that the title of this live is Calling All Badass Women. What's up, Jamie? Hey, Tina Michelle. Okay, so when I normally broadcast on Facebook and YouTube, what's up, Brandon Alexander? I see you, Adrian. So when I normally go live on Mondays and Thursdays, I'm talking about all kinds of stuff from, politics and corruption and healthcare inadequacies and social justice and racial injustice and all those kinds of things. But for those of you guys who have followed me for a while, you know that I've been on this really kind of crazy journey where, I was a poet and still am, and a spoken word performer and an online journalist and a coach and all of that. Let me see if I can turn this down. Doretta, is the feedback still there or has it gone?
It's still there. I think, Cindy, you got to turn your phone down. I had to turn my phone all the way down.
Turn the volume on your phone all the way down, Cindy. There we go.
Yeah. Oh, nope, it's still there.
I still hear some shit. Y'all bear with me.
It's only 3 minutes in. We can figure this out.
I'm excited too. Let me make sure my shit is all the way down while I'm telling everybody else to turn all the way down.
It is lots of echo. Sorry, guys. We're figuring this out right now. I'm trying. I can still hear stuff out of my phone.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm gonna keep talking and let y'all try to figure out the echo. How's that? So okay, so here's the thing. Thank you, Doretta. I appreciate that. So listen, so in doing all of those things and all of that work, especially when I was doing the peaceful protests and all of that, I got away from some of the things that really matter to me, which is coaching and health and well-being and wholeness and all of those things, because I think that life has to be a balance. At least it does for me. Let me just say this emphatically. It has to be a balance for me. I have to be concerned about the things that are going on in the world that I might not agree with, that I might think are, not good for humanity, that aren't good for certain people. And I want to be interested in helping people unpack our shit, get over our traumas, be living fully, authentically in our purpose and in our well-being, right? And especially as women, that's hard to do. I think because we live in a society that is it's a patriarchal society. It's set up and ran by men, always has been. They pit us against each other at all times. They make us feel like, it's funny because men get older and they get distinguished, right? They get like they're silver foxes. They get gray hair, they get whatever. We get a little neck wrinkle and all of a sudden we're like, we're somebody's grandma. There's just all these things that face women. See, and she says there's still feedback. Oh, I hear it.
Oh, there is. I hear it too. I jumped off of the IG because I thought it was my phone.
Shit. Hold on, guys.
But you're still.
Yep, I'm still.
Facebook sound is better, said Melinda. Yep.
I am attempting.
Oh, I hear it.
It's the IG. Shit.
Yeah, I think so too.
IG people, I just showed y'all my floor. Do you see me? I put my phone all the way down. Hold on. Let me see if I can do this. How's that? You guys talk.
Hello.
Everybody talk.
I'm only on here now. I
can't hear shit. Hold on.
Can you hear me?
Say something else.
Hello. Testing.
My IGTV.
Can't hear anything.
You can't hear us now? Cindy, can you hear me?
I hear you.
I can hear you. I can hear Dani.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I just can hear you, and I can't do a whole show trying to lip read. That will not work. It is the men trying to control. I really do agree with that. But let me see if I can. What will happen?
We can hear you clearly now. No feedback. Okay.
Yeah, the problem is, Adriana, so like now you can hear me, but I can't. But see, Natty, I just heard you.
I don't know how to. Hold on, let me try something.
Yes. It's when Natty's on IG.
What did you guys do?
I turned the volume down on my computer.
Oh, and you're using the volume on your phone?
Yes.
Okay, let me do that. Okay, what about now?
Thank you, Doretta. Hey, is that it, guys? Do we have it now? We got all the volume and feedback issues done?
We can do this.
Yes. Cindy, let me hear you talk. Cindy, talk.
Yes, I'm talking.
I can hear you.
Cindy,
you're muted.
Can you hear me?
No. Turn your volume up on your phone. You're the only one.
Wait. Okay, because Dani and I are listening through our phones, not our computer.
Not the computer. So turn the volume up on your phone, turn the volume down on your computer. Y'all, we're going to make this happen. We are going to make this happen.
There you go.
I swear.
Thank you for bearing with us.
On my phone, on my laptop, and now, wait. There you go. I muted on my phone.
Fuck yeah.
I muted on my laptop, and now I'm on my phone. I have.
All right, so
we did it.
Let me get this back up here. Are we good now?
Yes.
Okay. So here's the thing. So tonight's live, I wanted to be a little bit different. I started talking to these ladies last week about doing this together, because there's so much going on in the world. And I know that for me, and as a person, it has been a struggle to get back into my routines and the things that I love and the things that I'm passionate about, the things that I believe are my purpose. It has been a struggle since doing the protest to really find that balance for myself again, and getting reconnected with Natalie was one of the coaches who coached me, who trained me in one of my coaching certifications. And then I met Cindy through another event that we were doing back in early June, and getting reconnected with my tribe of badass women really helps get everything going. And so we were like, okay, so what can we do during this time that would be beneficial to people, right? So what can we do to help? There's a lot of talk around coaching. What is coaching? Because it's not counseling, it's not therapy, it's not consultation, it's not any of those things. It is something quite different and really, really beneficial for people. So it's how to unpack your stuff, get unstuck, and move forward, right? And there's, and it can be in a lot of different areas. So what we wanted to do tonight was talk about, I was like, all right, y'all, because Cindy hit us up like maybe yesterday. She was like, okay, so what are we going to talk about Thursday? Because we were flying by the seat of our pants. And I was like, let's talk about like badass women. What are the top 3 to 5 things that we deal with and whatever. And Cindy was like, got it, top 3 challenges. And she was like, getting vulnerable. And I was like, oh, now I'm going to throw up in my mouth a little bit, right? Because that's the reaction that I initially have to vulnerability. I used to have. I'm getting better at that. And then getting out of your comfort zone. And then third is dealing with the imposter syndrome. So we're going to touch on those 3 things. And then we are going to do some, I still hear a little bit of feedback.
Yeah, I was just looking at the comments. People are still hearing feedback. Yeah, I'm trying to listen through it. I still have feedback. Oh. I don't
Y'all tell me, is it really bad feedback? I'm just, y'all want to see my ceiling and all kind of shit while I'm trying to move this phone. Is that any better? No, that's worse almost. Well, it was here. Is it better if I move my phone away from my computer for you guys? Adriana said no. Let me turn my phone volume down. Maybe I don't need to hear shit that loud. Okay, Brandy, we're just gonna rock through this because here's or if there's like 5. Let me see. IG people, can y'all take your ass to Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch?
Agreed, right?
Can you do that? Can you, if you go to my page or if you go to the Rantings of Dani on Facebook or YouTube, you will find me, like legit. Go to Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, and I promise I will download this live, minus all this first bullshit, and I will upload it. Thank you, Adriana. Go to Facebook, guys, and then I will upload it to IG. That's how we're gonna rock. I'm gonna shut IG down for now because we just gotta make it happen. Okay, bye. Love y'all. We're gonna fix that another day. Delete. Boom. Okay, so now there is no feedback, right?
Cindy.
What is that? That's not me.
I don't know, but it's horrible. I know that much.
Okay, start again, Natty.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Testing. Hello. Cindy, we can't hear you, love.
She was muted. Now she's good. Okay, good. Hey, what's up, Daniel? I am glad a dude stuck around here too. Okay, so
man, if you guys are still here, you rock.
Yes. Yeah, it may be a StreamYard issue, right? But now StreamYard is like, what's wrong? And I'm like, feedback. Okay, so
I don't hear it anymore. Are you guys hearing it? Stephanie Daniel said it's all good.
Okay, so
oh my goodness, where did everybody just rolled out on me? Oh, Brandy can hear. Okay, I don't know where Dani went to. There she is. I'm like,
okay, great.
What has occurred?
Okay, wait. Audio. I already did that.
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Okay, yep, I can hear you. We're just going to rock with what we got. Okay, so listen. So, hey, Christy. All right, so here's the thing. I'm adding Cindy back. All right, so listen. So this is really, and here's what I love about this. So we could all be freaking out right now going, oh my God, we're 14 minutes in and shit ain't working. But you know what? It is what it is.
Okay.
It's going to be all right. And we're going to rock with what we got at this point, from this point moving forward. So what I'm going to do first, because you all know me, I'm going to give Natalie and Cindy a second to introduce themselves to you. What I can tell you is we are all definitely kindred spirits. We all have a lot of things that are really in common with each other about what we desire to see in this world, what we desire to see in people and life. Great. I am so glad it's all good now. And so that excites me because, you know, I don't want to stay in the quagmire all the time. Right. So y'all know me. I have to stay abreast of what's going on with politics and what's going on with healthcare and what's going on with social justice and racial injustice and all of those, because I'm passionate about them. Glad you made it, Adriana. And I cannot be consumed by those things and let them steal my hope and let them steal my joy and let them steal, you know, my belief in humanity. I have to hold on to those things. And they are the same way. So, and these are the folks who kind of help me process. And like when my ass is in the basement, get out and get to the balcony and all of those things. Thank you, Brandy. I appreciate that. And so without further ado, I'm going to say a tidbit and then let them introduce themselves. So I met Natalie through a mutual friend of ours, Raquel, which is also how I met Cindy. And it's been like, I don't know, 5 years ago now, something like that, that I met Natty. And holy geez. Here's what I love about her skill set is just phenomenal. So first of all, if it's about how our brain works and how our brain processes emotion or thought processes, and really being able to articulate and say things in a way that people can get it and it helps them, like practically helps you in everyday life and situations. That's your girl. If it comes to family, if it comes to parenting, dear gosh, the way she is about parenting and kids and the family unit, like that's her heart. And so she's also someone that I know I can be like, okay, look, I'm gonna need you to just check in on me. Like, is this my shit? Like, what's going on? Like, she's a vault, right? For my places where I know that I can be vulnerable and be safe with her. And it's phenomenal to have her in my life as a friend, and also as a coach and as a resource. She's phenomenal. So without further ado, Natalie, give them a little bit about your background and what you do.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, without going into my entire teamist story over here, let me not start at birth, right? Let's see. I have been in coaching, since 2012. The very beginning of 2012, I had a life event really kind of rock my world and felt like the carpet had been ripped out from underneath me. And I quickly realized that life is too short to settle. And I think that kind of started me on a journey where I really learned to stand for myself in a different way and show up in my life that says, at some point in time, I've got to learn to show up for me, no matter what, and learn to love myself unconditionally. And also, I think it's very important, at least it's been great for me, is to have a sisterhood of people that you can trust and that you do feel comfortable being vulnerable and not tapping out, like staying in for the long haul, having those hard conversations and, oh my God, crying in front of people, which I do not like.
This is my podcast. You know good and well you can say fuck all day.
Which it's not my favorite, right? So I jumped into coaching, and my niche is emotional intelligence. I really got on my own emotional journey of really healing some wounds and really learning about emotion as a whole. When I was lucky because it was early in my life. I was around 19 years old when I kind of realized, wow, I live in the basement. A lot of the times I was operating from fear. I was so scared to jump into anyone's inner circle out of fear of being discovered and not being good enough. And you guys know the whole imposter syndrome that we're going to chat about later. And so I also have 3 little girls, which are my worlds. And I'm like Dani said, I think in one of your videos or whatever, I'm a total geek. When I have a problem, I jump into research. Yeah. Even before jumping on this podcast or on here with you guys, I literally was like, oh, we're going to be talking about vulnerability. Let me go see Brene's newest, greatest stuff. And so I was listening to her all day today, she's so good.
Yeah.
So
I'm in her Facebook group.
Do what?
I'm in her Facebook group. Brene Brown, there's a yes.
I'm so bad about social media. I gotta get into that. But yeah, so and then I've been married twice. I've been widowed once, and I'm currently married to an amazing stay-at-home dad. He is fantastic and allows our worlds to function in a wonderful, wonderful way. So, and yeah, like I said, I met Dani, and she is a force to be reckoned with, I'd have to say. And I love, I feel like our friendship has grown from, we're really great about teacher, student, and really just allowing each other to, it's a place where we can be poured into and also share our heart at the same time. So, yeah. So yes, and Cindy, oh my gosh, she's also amazing. Do you care if I say a little something?
No, you go. You introduce Cindy because you've known Cindy longer than I have.
Yeah, so I met Cindy right before the pandemic hit, April or March, around that time, right before the pandemic hit. And it was through a dear friend of all of ours, Raquel, who's this amazing connector. And man, we just we just kind of clicked, I think. Cindy has grown her organization tremendously over the last few years. She is a course creator and helps other women become course creators, and she is like the epitome of empowerment.
Yes.
She has also become a fantastic resource for me as well. I know I feel so blessed to have women in my life that I can call when I feel like going to cry in the closet all by myself. I can call on these ladies. And she's also an amazing coach and leader and mentor and friend as well.
Yeah. So when we talk about Cindy helping women create their courses, so what we talk about is we talk about our online courses. And so you guys know that my card deck is on the way. It was shipped today. Whoop, whoop. And I'm actually one of her students in that arena. Because although I have this marketing background and I know about sales funnels and I know about all of that, right? There is something to be said for finding someone who specializes in a thing that you want to do, even if you know how to do it, because they find the little things that you've skipped or that you've missed over. They help you with accountability and cheerleading. Like I was so extra when I was finishing up my cards. I was sending Natty and Cindy like little videos of the cards on the screen, and I was like, "I'm sorry, I'm being so extra, y'all." And they were like, "Girl, no, you're not being extra." Yeah, because it's coming to fruition, and there's nothing like
and you've worked so hard on them. Like, oh my God,
nothing like having people in your life who support you, believe in you, encourage you, and celebrate your wins. Right? Yeah, it's a whole different perspective on the same thing. So what we want to do tonight, Cindy, give them a little bit of your background, and then we're going to dive right in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Nat. You're awesome. Dani, thank you so much for allowing us to be here. You know, my story, I mean, it's almost 40 years of my life, right? But just to cut it to you short here, I think my journey with coaching and what I do really started in 2017. 2016, really. I was going through some life changes as well. My dad had passed away on the same day that I actually closed on my property that I just purchased with my husband to a new state that we had just moved to. So it was like a very bittersweet year, if you will. And I was just kind of struggling through a lot of things personally, moving to a new state, making new friends. Really getting out of my comfort zone, right? Because I am a very private person. And then it wasn't until 2017 that, you know, I had received this transformation and I thought, you know, I really want to, you know, coaching had such an impact on me that I wanted to be able to help other people as well. My background is in higher education. I've spent over a decade in higher ed. You know, I've been appointed in different roles such as program management, strategic partnership development, and student enrollment. And it wasn't until around 2020 when I met Natalie and when I met Raquel, which happened to be somebody that I met online, getting out of my comfort zone, connecting with new groups on Facebook, connecting with people on social media and online. It was like all very new to me. And, you know, it wasn't until that time that I decided that I really wanted to marry, you know, this experience that I had with coaching and my background in program management and partnership development, that I said, you know, I really want to be able to, well, first we started with a membership program. And then I really dove deep into course development because I realized that there was a need. And, you know, Natalie is incredible. She's been, you know, just an incredible coach and friend and mentor throughout this whole journey. I remember when I was just getting started, I had a workbook that I put together and I shared it with Natalie. And I was like, hey, you know, so what are your thoughts? Like, can I get some feedback? And she's like, you need to make this more printer friendly. And in my mind, I was like, wow, but it's just so beautiful, you know, but it was like kind of one of those things where it's like, I love you, but
dang,
dang, you know? And so it's really nice to be able to have those people that you could really have a genuine conversation with. And, you know, with Dani, like we've hopped on clubhouses together.
Yeah.
And, you know, the thing about Dani is she is a force to be reckoned with. Like she will, be very transparent and very authentic and genuine with what she has to say. And there's no filter, if you will, but it's a good thing, because those are the kind of people that you need, right? To help you to be able to stretch yourself, and bring out those characteristics and those qualities that perhaps you buried in for so long. And, at the cornerstone of it all, for me, what I've really learned is that, it's all about storytelling, and it's all about using the experiences that happen to you to be able to connect with other people so that they can also give themselves permission to share what their own experiences have been.
Yeah. So I got this in my gut this morning while I was thinking about this broadcast that we were going to do. And a lot of people are familiar with this quote, but I was really guided to read it tonight. And so I just want you to keep in mind, because this is what this is all about. And so let me just go ahead and give y'all a little preface, especially around Natalie, because she knows me. Natty knows the core of my being. And so sometimes I will find myself more emotionally available when I'm around her than usual. So listen, I'm just going to tell my regular folks who normally see me dragging politicians and dangerous doctors and stuff. If you see me shed a tear and shit, just mind your business. I'm just kidding.
Love that armor there, love.
Well, we're talking about getting and staying vulnerable, right? Yeah. Okay. So it reminds me of this when we talk about the imposter syndrome, when we talk about being authentic, when we talk about getting out of our comfort zone, when we talk about getting and staying vulnerable, right? It reminds me of this Marianne Williamson quote, and many of you are going to know it, but just if you know it, say it along with me. Here it goes. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are here for a reason. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are born to make manifest the glory that is within us. It is in everyone. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give others the permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. I love so much about this quote because we always think that it's failing that we're scared of, when in reality, it's usually the success, right? It's really it's the fear. Brene Brown talks about the fear of overjoy, right? This idea that, oh my gosh, I might actually get everything I believe and see in my heart and in my gut and in my soul. And oh my gosh, what if I get it? Because if I get it, then I can lose it, right? If I never get it, at least I've never lost it, And I know what it's like to have been there. I remember after getting divorced, because my divorce was a combination of a divorce from a lot of my beliefs and because I was what I call neck deep in church at the time. When I found out about my ex-husband's affair, gosh, we were youth leaders in church. We were, I was leading the teens and the step team at church and all of these things. And I felt it was at my most obedient, my most desiring to please God. And then it just felt like I got gut punched. I just got the shit kicked out of me. And I was like, well, what is this all about? Right. And I remember after that saying, you know what, I'm okay if I never love again. I have loved and I have lost. Right. I know what that good thing feels like. I'm good if I never get it again. Right. I'm good. And my friend Hassan, who was on with me on Monday night, he used to say, but you'll miss out on all the good things. And I was like, so because to me, the fear of all of that bad again was just too strong. And it reminds me of Brene Brown saying that if you numb the good emotions, the bad emotions, you also numb the good. You don't get to pick and choose what you feel the most. When you numb your ability to feel, you numb your ability to feel the good as well as the not so good, right? So having said that, let's talk about getting vulnerable, okay? So and you guys that are in the comments, keep the comments coming, and I want to know your opinion. I'm going to let Natalie and Cindy very, concisely give me your definition of vulnerability. What does getting and staying vulnerable mean to you, Cindy? And you guys put it in the comments. What does vulnerability mean to you?
Yeah. So, I have a relationship with vulnerability and daring greatly, written by Brene Brown, really changed my life. I mean, really, if there's any book that changed my life, it was Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. And it was really, there it is.
Girl, I had it out, refreshing.
Everybody that is watching this show right now needs to go on Amazon.com and buy that book, because it really changed my life in such a way that gave me the opportunity to get out of my comfort zone and finally peel the layers that I have been hiding for so long, because I was so afraid that if people knew who I really was, then they wouldn't like me. They would get me. They would finally know that, like, who I am. And there was this story that I was just telling myself that, I wasn't good enough. And that, once they find out that I'm like this nerd that reads books on phenomenological research, right, then there's this whole thing that I won't be liked. And so for me, it was also about an experience that I had, so vulnerability for me, first off, is really being able to let go of something that you're holding on to and, really not serving you in any way. Like, vulnerability is just really being able to just let go and be super transparent and be your open and authentic self. And for me, in 2019, I had some health issues that essentially led me, I love you too, that essentially led me to the hospital. I was hospitalized. I worked about 90% of my job was traveling. I was always on the road. I was never home. And, I got to a point where I just had a mental breakdown. I had a complete burnout, and I went to the hospital. And for me, at that moment when I experienced that in my life, I was like, this is the most embarrassing thing that could ever happen to me. I didn't want to tell anybody. I was so embarrassed that it happened to me. Here you have this person that has an incredible marriage. I've been with my husband for 13 years. I have a great job. I have a great home. I'm completely debt free. But deep inside, like, I was going through all of this. And, once I was able to kind of break through that, I began to become vulnerable with that story just by telling one person. One person that I really trusted. And it was hard for me. Like, even thinking about it right now gets me emotional, because it was hard. It was something that I felt like, was deep within me, that I didn't want to be judged because of that.
Yeah.
And that person was just so beautiful in so many ways. And even at the end, I was like, after I told this person what had happened, like, I didn't want them to feel like I was a burden to them now that I had expressed this to them. And that was not the case at all, you know? And so little by little, I really gave myself that opportunity to share my story more and more. And now look at me, I'm on a live with people who have no idea. I have no idea who you guys are, but I've given myself the opportunity to be vulnerable and to know that that is now my story, and my story is going to impact people in such a unique way because of what happened to me. Yeah. So that's what vulnerability means to me.
So Adriana, I saw Adriana say vulnerability equals exposing your truth. And I found the choice of wording in saying exposing your truth to be an interesting choice of words, because usually when we think of being exposed, we think of it in almost like a negative connotation, right? And so that's an interesting choice of word. Natalie, what's your definition of vulnerability? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, I think it's changed over the years for sure. Today, it means unapologetically knowing myself and walking in the courage to express it to other people that I deem as trustworthy.
Yeah, and that's a big piece of it is who do you deem as trustworthy? And so for me, I think sometimes people mistake transparency with intimacy, and transparency with earned vulnerability, like trusting someone with my delicate places. And so what I have found is that because of what I do, doing online broadcasting and doing lives all the time, right? People sometimes, it's been uncomfortable for me sometimes because I've been in spaces where people will be like, oh my gosh, can I just give, and they don't realize, like, you know me and all my ish, but I don't know anything about you. You have not put any pebbles in my jar. If I could use my Brene Brown language, right? You haven't put any pebbles in my jar. So I don't, and it's interesting to see that exchange with people that really do know me, really don't know me. And that's a balance for me, because sometimes people do think that there's an openness that, to me, it's not even something that I think about. It's just something that I do because I'm guided to do it as part of the reach, as part of the purpose, as part of what I'm just led to do, right? For me, vulnerability is it's a challenging thing. Having been diagnosed with PTSD from childhood traumas and military traumas combined together, and Natty will tell you that I did not realize, and I've said this, but I don't know that people actually get it. I did not realize how much the protest at Holston Valley and moving back home, I did not realize how traumatic that was, and the impact that it's had on me. It has taken me months and months and months and months to unpack all of those internal things. And I've had people laugh and say things to me online, like, well, you didn't accomplish anything, and you da 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 da, and or people will laugh when I say that, but they have no idea what it took for me to come back to a place that I never felt safe in as a kid, right? That where like racially targeted as a kid, sexually abused when I lived there. Not protected by people in positions of authority and things like that who knew all of those things, right? And so to go back and be there for that long, and to have people attack me and say things and threaten me and, have them hire private eyes to follow me around, those things were very, very triggering. So like, it is a challenge for me sometimes to be totally vulnerable in any given space, just because I am used to no space being safe.
I want to throw this in there too, because I was reading Daniel's comment as well.
There it is.
Yeah, thank you. And I've found too that sometimes being vulnerable is even challenging with yourself. Like, one of the hardest things I have learned to do is have very in-depth conversations about my own beliefs, why I feel the way I feel, what is trustworthy. Like, because this week I found myself, my daughter started school this week, and she had two little incidents where, in my mind, I want her to like stick up for herself, and I found myself saying the same thing, Daniel, except not to my kid, like, to give two shits. It was more about, we don't care what other people think, da 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 da. And then I stepped back and I was like, well, that's so easy to say that we don't care what other people think. It's very challenging to actually walk that out.
Yeah.
I mean, I end up like because I'm like, well, how easy is it to be offended? Oh my gosh, especially in this day and age right now. I think offense is kind of like the cool thing to be at some point in time. And the question though is, it takes, at least for me and my experience and my clients, it takes a lot to capture that offense, unpack it, ask yourself what it means to me and why it's moving all this emotion. Where is all this emotion coming from behind it? And oftentimes it comes from places that are so tender.
Yes.
And those places are even hard to expose to yourself sometimes. And I think when you're with a person that you deem as trustworthy, and I think I love the last comment is it really does vary. And sometimes who I find out is actually safe surprises me. I think I love that part of your comment, Daniel, because I think sometimes being vulnerable is giving people a chance.
Yeah.
And showing up and sharing with them. Because I know, Dani, like you can just talk about all these traumatic experiences in your life and you just go all the way through it. And you're like, and people that don't know you are kind of like, well, she just unloaded a lot there.
There have been times when I've said to Natty, oh, well, reliving some of the things, and she'll like, Dani, that's a lot. But I think for me, like, so you know how Natalie said her niche is emotional intelligence. My niche is trauma. And my niche is trauma because I've experienced so much. One of the most, so when we talk about doing our work, guys, so like I did a program called Landmark, and then I went through the forum, and then I did the advanced course, and I did another seminar, and learning how to unpack all of these things. And so there was this exercise. We were focused on uncovering our rackets. Okay. And so a racket or a scheme is what I call it, a scheme that you run on yourself. So think about like a Ponzi scheme or a scheme. Okay. So any scheme that you are running on yourself, any belief that you have about yourself, any story that you've made up, you are getting something out of it, even if you don't think so, right? And so you have to start to ask yourself, okay, what am I getting out of it? And then 2, what's it costing me? Because it's costing you something, right? There's both a winning happening and a robbery taking place at the same time. And you have to get really present to that. And so I started going, so the assignment was to uncover like 1 or 2 of your traumas and work through them, right? Well, I thought I was going to be Billy Badass, and I was just going to do a list of all my traumas and just work through them over the weekend. Yeah. Recommendation, don't do that shit. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. I was devastated. I didn't. So I made this list of all my traumas, and I started like at my earliest. And so the very first thing that I said was my dad dying when I was 6 months old. That was my first trauma. And then I wrote all these other traumas behind it. And I had a list, right? I had a whole list. And then here's what I did. I took the very first one and I wrote, the truth about my dad dying is, and I kept writing and rewriting that until my subconscious just filled in the blanks. And here's what happened in that moment. I uncovered a story that I had been subconsciously running in the back of my head that was dictating every relationship I'd ever had. Because here was the story that I'd been told. I had been told that my dad always wanted a girl, that my oldest brother was born. He was named after my dad. And when my middle brother was born, they had picked out my name, found out it was a boy. So they gave him a variation of my name. My name is Tara Danielle. His name was Terrence Daniel. And then my dad said, I still want a girl. And they gave it 5 years to have a girl. And in between that time, my dad had 2 tours in Vietnam. My dad developed lung cancer. He was medically discharged after being medevaced home from Vietnam, and he was medically discharged. And that's when we first came to live in Bristol. I hadn't been born yet. And long story short, I was born in the 5th year. And so I was born in May, and my dad died Thanksgiving morning that year. 6 months later, my dad died on Thanksgiving morning. And the story is that like a day or 2 before my dad died, he was having a conversation and said, you know, basically, I've got my little girl, I'm ready to go. Right. And as I'm writing this, the truth about my dad dying is. This is what I had gotten somehow, was I wasn't enough to make him stay. That's what I heard. I was not enough for him to stay. He wanted me so badly. He loved me so much. But when he got me, I wasn't enough to make him stay. And when I uncovered that, I realized, holy shit, that fear is running all of my relationships, all of my friendships, all of my whatever, right? Because, oh, you'll want me, but when you get me, boy, you won't want to keep me, right? And that was making me drive people away. But I didn't know that. So when we talk about really starting to understand, the brain is such an incredibly amazing thing. And it starts so early when we're babies and when we're toddlers, and we have no idea the way that we take things in. What stories are we making up that go on to impact our regular life? And until you really get vulnerable with yourself, because I couldn't listen. I had a whole list of all my other traumas, and I was like, shit, I don't have nothing for y'all. I just got to sit with this one thing for a minute. Because then I wrote for a whole page, I'm not enough to make him stay. I wasn't enough to make him stay. I wasn't enough to make him stay. And, it has taken a lot to really fall in love with the person that I am. But I had to decide two things. Who I desired to be in this life, right? Who do I want to be at the end of the day? I really want to be able to say that I contributed more than I criticized. Not that I won't criticize you, because y'all know that I will. But typically, if I'm criticizing you, it's because you're hurting people. I don't like it when people hurt people. I've always been that way, and I think it's because I've been hurt, So I really do want to be that person. And so wanting to be that person dictates how I am. Because if y'all think I really come for people now, I used to be like horrible, right? But so when we talk about getting vulnerable and staying vulnerable, it's finding new payoffs and new possibilities to believe in. It's saying, okay, so what was the benefit in that? And all right, so what did that cost me? What did that story cost me? And am I ready to let that story go and create something new in its place? And I think that's what it requires. And for me, the most important thing about being vulnerable is to be able to do it with myself. That's the most important thing. Because at the end of the day, that's the most important relationship that I have, me and the God inside me, right? Anything else you want to add on vulnerability before we move on to the next section?
Yeah, I just want to share this. One is, it's really interesting, Dani, that you came to that space, right? Because actually ages 0 to 3 is the developmental space where children will begin to, at that point in their life, that's where it's kind of locked in on the type of life partner they're going to have. So they're outrageously important years for kids. And as kids do, from an emotional space, like even though you're only 6 months old, I'm sure your dad being there and then all of a sudden not was a drastic change. So even at 6 months old, it's still traumatic. And then on top of it, it's reiterated over and over again because you're different. Where's your dad? And my husband, I saw someone that say they lost their parent when they were 9. My spouse lost his mother, also passed away when he was 9, and kids made fun of him in school because his mom died. I mean, it's just like, so it's, you take a very tender space and it's just overly looked upon while you're trying to find belonging. I think that's the hardest part in vulnerability, is not only do we feel exposed, but then we want to belong after we've been exposed. And it's a real space that kind of bubbles up in each and every one of us. It's different, but it still shows up very similar, because I think it's just part of our chemistry.
Yeah. Natalie, you said, okay, so the ages. And so this is something that people might not know. The ages of 0 to 3 is this massive time in children where they actually determine and they figure out for themselves the kind of partner they're going to have in life, right? But most of the time we don't think of children in that way. We don't think about like what's happening behind their scenes in their brain and in their development. So Stephanie Daniels said yes, and I still think the same as when I was young. Why did I deserve to have a mom growing up?
And it's kind of one of those things is even I deserve, right? Is I'm not enough. Why don't I deserve? It's a form of self-blame. And follow this train of thought for a moment is you guys, any parents in the room, or if not, like look back at your own childhood for a moment and think of all the spaces. You didn't have a lot of choice. When we're born, we don't have choice of how we're born or who we're born to or what city or country that we're born into. There's no choice. We just pop in and hope for the best pretty much. Yes. Our guardians will take good care of us, whoever they may be. And unfortunately, that is not always the case.
No.
And so what happens is we see and experience an emotion and they're so big because we're so young. We don't know what to do with them. And so we don't understand them. There's not cognitive thought. Oh, we just lost Dani for some reason, but we don't understand them. There's not cognitive thought going on. And so the easiest thing to do, because it's too painful to look at the people who are making all these huge life decisions for our state of being, for what is normal, for what, who's setting all of our value systems, who's telling us this is the way the world is. This is not just your guardians as you grow. It's also any adults, any older people that just have an influence. TV is another one, games, all these different influences on our kids, especially this day and age, but this happened to us as well. And so what happens is when we get to a place where we aren't really, as children, it's too hard to fathom that these people are broken.
Yes.
It's too painful because that would crumble our entire world. Our entire foundation would crumble if we stepped back and said, oh, my mom was still trying to figure that shit out. Or,
yes.
Oh, my dad was still going through grief, or my loved ones. And I was going through grief and I didn't understand my emotions at such a young age.
Yes.
It's just a place it's not. And so that's why children self-blame.
Mm-hmm.
It's immediate going, it's got to be me. There's something wrong with me. And that's where shame begins to set in.
And shame is the opposite of vulnerability. Shame is what keeps us from being vulnerable. Shame is the strongest emotion that keeps us from, because what will people say? What will people think? Because we, at the end of the day, we desire strength, connection, and bonding, right?
Yeah.
And I think, creating this space where we recognize that. So I'll give you an example. Dominic, he was about 3, and I was talking to him about like how he wanted to be, and I said, Dominic, you get to choose who you want to be, not what you want to be when you grow up, but who you want to be, right? So what kind of person do you want to be? And so like he would get upset, like if he got in trouble and he was crying or whatever, and he would say, Tutu, you made me sad, and I would say, no, I didn't. No, I did not. I do not control your sadness. You control your sadness, right? It's okay if you are sad, but you get to determine if you're sad, how long you're sad, like what sad looks like that's all up to you, buddy, right? And so I'll never forget, he was on the bus, and Anaya, because of course, so you got to understand our cultures, right? Our cultures also play a role. Like I come from the world of, if you get picked on at school, you better whip that ass, right? I come from the world of, if you better throw hands. Like if you won't come complaining, I'm going to need you to have thrown some licks, right?
I was taught, don't start the fight, but it starts, you better finish it.
Yes.
The bigger they are, the harder they fall.
Right? Yes. And so Dominic is on the school bus, right? And he's talking about this kid who's like messing with him and picking on him, right? And got in Dominic's seat. And Dominic was like, he took my seat. And Anaya, of course, was like, listen, when you get on the bus, like she was ready to tell him, like, get him, right? And this is what I said to, because the boy, I think was like, he was kicking Dominic under the seat or something. And Dominic says to me, I said, well, Dominic, I said, well, what do you want to do? You could go, you could tell him, you could do whatever. And he said, well, Tutu, he said, I wanted to pick him up and just move him to another seat. And I said, well, why didn't you do that? And he said, because Tutu, he's smaller than me and I don't want to hurt him. And like, there's a part of me that just goes, oh my God, I love that that's your heart. And then the other part of me goes, I'm going to need you to set some boundaries though, son, in some sort of way. Right? But it's finding that balance and understanding that this is the one thing that helped me process with the people in my life that I felt like did not help me, that did not protect me, is I had to remember that they were doing the best they could based on who they were at that time and what they knew. Right? And with every generation, we know better, so we do better. Right? But in older generations, there was no such thing as therapy. It was, you better shake that shit up and shake it off and let's go. Right? Dry those tears, suck it up and keep moving. And there was a lot of emotional repression, right? In our parental generations. And so now, understanding that, it's giving them grace, right, for where they are and how they grew up and how they were instructed, and remembering that we are now that conduit, that catalyst that gets to connect that older generation to the younger generation, and really lean into the discomfort of our emotions and our thought processes and our traumas and all those sorts of things.
Right. And I think you can totally connect the dots. I know we've really kind of hung in on vulnerability, but I think a lot of times vulnerability is expanding your comfort zone, expanding what types of conversations that you've been avoiding, right? Mm-hmm. I know that's always a red flag for me. If I'm avoiding something, I go into, okay, well, what's happening there? It's kind of like, what scheme am I running? What am I benefiting from this?
Yes.
But also, what is it costing me?
Yes.
What's it costing me?
So I want to give people an example when we break down schemes. Okay. I want to give people an example of what we mean by that. So for example, how many of you guys that are in the comments can think of a time where, because I've heard people say things like this person's always taking from me, or I'm the person in the family that keeps everybody all together, right? Everybody comes to me with their problems, right? Can any of you guys relate to that? Right?
The peacemaker, right?
Yeah, I'm the peacemaker, or I'm the one who always bails everybody out financially. So like there's all of these different things that I hear people say. And my question automatically is, so what are you getting out of it? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm not getting anything out of it. They're using me and abusing me and I'm like, no. Here's what I know. You're getting something out of it or you wouldn't continue to do it. So you're either getting to look like the martyr, you're getting to look like the good child, the good daughter, the good son, right? You're getting to look like the person who sacrifices so much for everyone else. You get to be the savior for everybody. There is something that you are getting in exchange for this scheme that you're running on yourself, this thing that you are letting continue to happen. And you have to get really present to the fact that you are co-creating that thing that is happening. You are co-creating that story, that relationship, and you are endorsing it, right? Because you're getting a return on your investment. And then you have to ask yourself, what is it costing me? What is it cost? Is it costing you authentic relationships with the people that you love? Is it costing you boundaries and self-worth and self-respect, right? What is it costing you, right? So, okay. So Brandy, when we say not make you disown relatives for bullshit. So, but again, is that, you have to ask yourself in individual situations, right? In individual situations, is that an authentic, I've disowned you for something that is serious or whatever, or is this a scheme? And is it truly costing you something because you all weren't in a place to get vulnerable, to be authentic, to explore the possibilities around what's actually happening. You know, when we say things like I've disowned family, that's an extreme thing, right? Because like it or not, folks, whether it's blood family or extended family, we are all here to be connected to each other, to love and be loved, right? So you got to ask yourself about why you chose that. So without knowing
they were evil.
Yes, I saw that. So let me just say this. I believe that good and bad is like a construct, right? It's a societal thing that we classify people as, and without knowing, because okay, let me say this. I would never say to anyone anything that I haven't been faced with myself in terms of extending forgiveness to people and inviting people into new possibilities. So, you know, that would be something that we would talk offline and kind of see what they were. But the thing that I ask myself is, what's the story, right? What am I getting from it? What's it costing me? And is this really what I desire? And what do I do from there? So I agree with you, Natalie, though, when you say getting vulnerable has to do with getting outside of your comfort zone, right? Cindy, when you think about getting outside of your comfort zone, what are some steps and things that people can take that get them to extend and to reach? And Natty, while she's telling that, if you could do the circle and the dot. So that you can illustrate the point, that would be great.
Yeah. So, you know, getting out of your comfort zone is giving yourself the opportunity to step into unknown territory. It's giving yourself the opportunity to know, I don't have the answer to whatever it is that's going to happen, but I trust myself, and I'm giving myself that opportunity to be brave and go into it anyways. You know, that's really what it comes down to when you give yourself an opportunity to get uncomfortable. And then with that comes so many emotions, right? You get nervous, you get anxious, you start to experience like a shake in your body, right? Because it's your brain really reprocessing this situation that you're getting yourself into that you've never even been in before. So it's really also about reframing your mindset and reminding yourself that, oh my gosh, like my body is reacting to something really exciting right now, and I'm getting out of my comfort zone, and this thing that I'm feeling is actually a good thing. And you know, when you look at the science and when you look at the research, they have actually been able to prove that your brain and the way that your body is processing something when you're putting yourself in a new situation, and when you're excited about something, it's actually the same chemical reaction that's happening in your body. The only difference is that your brain is processing it in a different way.
Yes.
And when I was able to know that and realize it and actually experience it on my own, it's really given me the opportunity to be braver, right? To be more comfortable and to be comfortable with getting uncomfortable, right? It's like, I already know, I felt this before. I know what this feels like, and let's go. I'm excited. We
were talking about that this morning on the Clubhouse call that we were on, because think about it, guys. Think about it like this. When you get knots in your stomach, when you get butterflies, when your hands get sweaty, when your heart's racing, you get that same thing from anxiety as excitement, right? The only difference is the way our brain is processing those physical reactions and physical chemicals in our body. So if we start to practice that shift in our mindset, that this is not, that this is not something to be fearful, but this is an opportunity for growth. This is something for my benefit. This is something like, even if it's uncomfortable, holy crap, there's going to be yummy goodness on the other side of it, right? Then you can shift and be more comfortable getting uncomfortable. So Natty's going to show you a little diagram that we use when we're talking with clients about getting uncomfortable, and sometimes some of the easiest ways to make that happen. So take it away, Natty.
Yeah, so this is super simple, guys. I'm gonna look in the middle. Okay, so this is us, right? We are the X. The circle is a illustration of our comfort zone. Okay, and what happens is oftentimes our goals are outside our comfort zone. If they weren't outside our comfort zone, then we wouldn't have them as goals, right? Where we want to be, who we are becoming, is typically outside of the comfort zone. And when we come very close to the edge of that comfort zone, just like you guys just started chatting about, our body is going to freak out, right? We're going to have like a mental and even physical, like Dani just talked about, like emotional, like, oh my gosh, we're going into unknown territory. Like your body will actually kick in and show up, because unknown, uncertainty equals threat. So it's easy for your body and your brain to go into what I call survival mode, basement, all that's the same type of thing. And at that point, your body's saying, turn around, oh my God, don't go, stop.
Yes.
You can't do this. Don't go any further. You're putting yourself in danger. And so that after when that happens, it's really easy for us to kind of recoil and go back to our comfort zone because it's familiar, right? It's really, it feels more familiar and safe. And so the one thing that that research has shown to drive the expansion of anybody's comfort zone in anything, and you can listen to millionaires, billionaires, anyone that is super successful will tell you someone helped them get there. Someone helped them get there. And so that's why when we go and you give a hand to somebody and you pull them across, right? That's why coaching is so dynamite, right? Because coaching is all about going within yourself and not myself or Dani or Cindy knowing what you need. It's knowing that you have within you what is needed to get to the other side, and believing in you until you can believe in yourself.
Yes.
And every time you take a step outside of that comfort zone, you expand your comfort zone a little bit more. And every time you expand your comfort zone, guess what? I believe God, your higher self, whatever, is going to show up in your life and give you more opportunity. And those people in our lives that drive us crazy, they give us wonderful opportunity, because we're only reflecting, right? We're living in this mirror image of they have ish happening, but it's really, it's bringing up stuff within us. And that, energy work. Yes. And that's why it's so important to lean into the uncomfort and hang in for the vulnerability and not tap out and run. And you know what? We will run sometimes, and that's okay. Right? That's okay. Yeah. It's learning to reflect and go backward and say, I wonder what motivated me to turn around and run. I wonder what's motivating me to hide behind myself in conversations. I wonder what's going on, because I'm feeling some kind of way when I even think about this person. Yeah. There's stuff there for you. There's opportunity for you to go within yourself and seek out the answer, because you have the power to shift how you feel and change and adjust and tweak your own belief systems that are driving that behavior. And I wanted to throw this out there. I saw Stephanie, I don't know where it went to. Stephanie, I saw your comment about sometimes we give so much that we feel empty. I saw that you switched up to empty, and that you do anyway. And you are not alone, Stephanie. There's so many women, especially. We are taught in our society to give of ourselves.
Yes.
To consistently give and give and give and give and give. And the question is, where are you giving from? Are you giving out of obligation, right? Mm-hmm. Or are you giving out of a fear, right? What are you looking to get? Are you giving to look like a rescuer? Or are you giving because you genuinely want to be there and show up for that person?
So let me share this. I've had the privilege of being able to sit under Ayanna Van Zandt a couple of times and participate in some of her workshops, and she's phenomenal. Like, she's my people. And so she was teaching us this, and I'm going to have you guys, because I can't see you, but do it with me. So this is what she had us do. So take your arms and put them out in front of you, like in a circle. So you need to understand that this is your cup. Okay. Everything in your cup is for you. You only give from your overflow. Only for your overflow, only from your overflow. Everything else that is in that cup belongs to you. And if you give when your cup is not full, you make people a thief and they don't even know it. Because they don't know that you don't have to give. Only you know that, right? And so you have to start to develop an awareness that says, okay, how am I feeling when I'm giving? Right? So for me, one of the keys that I am no longer giving from my overflow is if I start to resent my giving, or if I resent their taking, I'm like, oh shit, wait, I've done moved into a different space right now.
But you're not blaming, right? You're not blaming that person.
No, I recognize it's all me.
Yeah.
If I resent that person taking, it is not their fault. They are not responsible for my giving. They are not. And it is human. I mean, I'm sorry. We always say, well, that person's just a taker. You hear everybody talk about energy vampires. Listen, your ass knows how not to be bit. Come on now. I mean, seriously. Like,
well, I think it's a place too of, if that's the space we're in, because I used to be a people pleaser. And I'd say yes to God. I mean, so many people, I would be running ragged, exhausted, and I just drink some Red Bull and keep going,
yes.
And the problem with that though, is just like Cindy, I'd love for you to weigh in here, is you will hit burnout. That's the challenge. And when we say, yes, I'll do that, or I'll show up for you, and we don't really want to, and it feels like obligation, and it's like, oh, I'm so exhausted, I'd really like to do nothing, or I'd really love to cancel. It sounds great to go to dinner. I know we planned that a few months ago, but whose idea was this anyway? Like when we hit those moments, have the courage to say, hey, it's been a fucking day.
Yeah.
I don't have it in my pajamas, and I'm at capacity. I mean, one thing I know, like Dani, we spoke, every single day. We kind of still do, right? And when I got pregnant with my third daughter, I totally ghosted her, and I love you. I ghosted everyone because my cup runneth over for myself and my girls and my husband and my mom and dad, and that was about it. That was all I really had to give. Yeah. And it was not personal to Dani. It was not personal to my beloved friends, to people in my life, even my colleagues. It was just something I had nothing left to give. And so I encourage you, Stephanie, if you find yourself giving out of obligation or showing up because you feel like you have to and not because you really genuinely want to, which is a big difference. So know that piece, define that for yourself. Communicate it, because everyone else that's so used to you giving, they're going to be like, WTF, Stephanie, what happened? Why aren't you showing up anymore? And so communicate that to the people around you and let them know, hey, I'm working on self-care. I'm working on being very intentional with my time. Cindy, I totally want you to weigh in, because she's like dynamite when it comes to like carving out time to make. She's very intentional with her time, and I love it.
One other piece before Cindy jumps in here is understand that when you are giving, and it's not from your overflow and it's from your cup, and you're feeling that kind of way, you have tainted the experience and the giving and the receiving. So when we give, we know that when we give, it's what we get back, right? But where you give from, the space, the energy, and the emotion around that giving impacts what you get back. So if you're wondering, well, shit, I'm doing all this giving, but I ain't getting nothing back, it's because you giving from the wrong place when you shouldn't be giving. You ain't got no business giving anyway. And so you mess it up. You mess up your own karma because you're giving from that wrong place. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's good. yes, giving is good where you have it to give. The other thing too, Stephanie, is if you find yourself in a situation like this, it's really important to ask yourself, like, where else is this showing up in your life, right? Where else is this whole thing of, me feeling like the way that I do, where yep, you have it, you give it. Yeah. And it's really also about asking yourself, like, where else is this happening? Where are you doing things where it's kind of like a have to and not really want to? And, and Natalie knows, I am Mondays is my planning day. I don't meet with anybody. I don't, my calls are strictly for certain people because that's the day that I need to get things done. And, I have been able to discipline myself in that way just because of things that have happened to me. I have always been, yes, that person that is like, oh, you need something, a phone call? Okay, great. I'm here, like at people's beck and call, right? And even just, in the beginning of my business, when I was doing coaching, it's like people were calling me and they're like, I want to work with you. Do you have time to talk right now? And it was like, yeah, sure. I have time to talk right now. But what I have realized is that over time, I have really been able to say, right now I'm occupied with something else, but here, go ahead and grab my link and get my online calendar and find a day that, are my office hours and we can connect. And that's really something that I have been able to discipline myself over time, because I was that person that was at people's beck and call. And, when it comes to being involved in a project, if it's a, I really have to think about it, right? And if it's either a hell yes or a hell no.
What did I say this morning? So we were talking, I don't know if it was which one of you two, but I was having this conversation and I said, I no longer want to do things I don't love for people I don't like. Right. Yeah. And I can love you, but I don't have to like you. And I'm at that place where I super duper trust God to honor the gifts and purpose that have been placed inside me. I am willing to walk them out, to do my work, to develop them and to tap into them. And because of that, I will no longer compromise my purpose for temporary profit.
Yeah. And, and when I was talking to Adriana, oh, it's your bedtime. But I did want to add, even through chat, through Messenger in the DMs, I was talking to Adriana and we were talking about like just a cleanse and like a reset, and it's like I'm resetting, like unfollowing a ton of people and following new people, because you've got to really give yourself that opportunity to like get a reset. If you look at the research, there's this thing in your brain called the reticular activating system. And I won't go too deep into it, but essentially what it is, it's a reprogramming of your thoughts and what has happened based on your life experiences and what you believe to be true. And so this is why constantly, like, if you're telling yourself like, well, I'll never get my dream client, right? I'll never get, the income that I'm really looking for, then what's going to happen if you continue to tell yourself that? The world is going to provide evidence of that statement that you're telling yourself to be true. And so this is why reprogramming your mind, right, with affirmations, with mindset, with scripture, whatever it is that you call it, is so important, because a limiting belief is not going to present what is possible. It's only going to present to you what you believe to be true based on the experiences that you have had. So reframing your mind with affirmations and positive talk and bringing people into your circle that do believe in you and that do know that it's possible is so critical, because you've got to shatter that glass ceiling and break through any thoughts that are coming in.
Hi, Berna. Glad to see you. Okay, so Christy, girl, you said something. You said you show up when you feel quote unquote wanted. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to open this up now for some on the spot coaching. A lot of people in our world call it hot seat coaching. I try not to do that because my eyes be like, I'm not a crab getting boiled in a pot. I don't want to be in the hot seat. I want the seat to be warm and inviting. I want the seat to be loving and whatever. Like, but see, that's that performance coaching mindset is let's move you through your ish so you can succeed, right? And we do that in certain arenas. But let me just say, the seat will not be hot. The seat will be warm and inviting for you. So what I'm gonna ask is that if you have an area that you would like some coaching around, we're gonna open up the floor now for you to put that in there. So Christy, if I'm just throwing this, I'm gonna give you an invitation. If you would like to explore that wanted feeling, let me know, girl. Or if there's anybody else in the comments, because this is your time. And I also said this before. I talked to Natty and them about what happened with the high school students and the active shooter or whatever. So parents, I have said to you guys, oh shit, why am I not plugged up? I have said to you that, if you or staff or your children, hold on, y'all, my Mac's going to die. That would not be good.
Well, that would not be good. Yeah.
Need assistance or, so while you got that safe space to process, we have said that this is something we would be more than happy to do, right? Understand we are not counselors, we are not therapists, we are definitively coaches. And if in coaching we identify something that requires counseling and therapy, that is something that we will tell you. And if you are in counseling or therapy, they have to give I know for sure for Natalie and I, they have to co-sign you working with a coach. Because you just want to make sure that there's no conflicting whatever. Okay, so let's dive right in. So Christy, do me a favor, type in the comments when you say you show up wherever you feel wanted. Describe what feeling wanted means to you. How does that show up for you? And while she's doing that, if there's anybody else, hey Terry Doctor, if there's anybody else that has an area that you want to bring up, a question that you want to ask, whether it's around vulnerability, whether it's about getting out of your comfort zone, or even if it's about that imposter syndrome, right? Which we all deal with. What's so funny is I didn't realize people had given it a name. I literally just heard imposter syndrome like not that long ago. I was like, oh, that's that shit I've had all this time. Like, nice to know y'all gave it a name, but
they've caught up.
I love it.
Okay, so Chrissy says, is people telling her that they love her or that she's there. So that is like a validation, I think I hear, is that, you show up in places where people say to you that they love you or that they want you to be there, if I'm understanding you right. So who wants to tackle that first?
I have a curiosity question.
Okay.
What happens when you feel or assess that you're not wanted? What happens then?
Yeah, Christy, what happens?
And affirmation.
Yeah, they give her affirmations, validation that she's there, that sort of thing. It's all like positive, yummy, whatever. So what happens, Christy, when you feel unwanted or when you feel like,
okay,
oh, you shut down. Great.
So
not great that you shut down. Great that you answered.
Well, no, but I mean, thank you for being authentic, right?
Yes.
And sharing with us live with us right now. Because let's talk about power. And you become quiet. So you stop communicating is what I'm hearing. Yeah. Is so when we put our power, which is, to me, I define that, we can define that here as well, is to me is anything that I'm giving of myself and my self-worth over to either keep it with me in my cup, right? Or I choose to share that outside of myself mistakenly, because it often is a mistake when we choose to give somebody else our power. And that really shows up, Christy, to say you're letting, and follow me here, you're letting someone else dictate your feelings of belonging wherever you go, right? So if you feel like they don't want you there, or you feel like they do want you there, your self-worth potentially, because I don't know, because we're not talking live, potentially hinges on your interpretation either their community, of them articulating that they like you here or not, or your interpretation of their body language, or your interpretation of their emotional space as well. There's a lot that can go that can crash and burn all up in that space, because we're operating off of assumption a lot of the times. And so it's a place of kind of asking yourself, I can sense it right away. So that's cool that you really have a good sense of things. The question though is, what's driving the scent of their energy? Mm-hmm. Okay, so what's making you think it's you?
Because that's what we do. It's all about us. It's always about us. That's what we always do. We always make it about us. Yeah.
I mean, because again, get curious. So listen, get curious. Facial expressions. Okay, so you feel like people are like, what the hell is she here for? What's going on?
But you know what? Let me just say this. So oftentimes we do this. We think that it's about us. And let me ask you this. How many of you guys have ever been in like the grocery store and you're just like, why is she looking at me like that? Right. And like that person's looking at me and right. And here's the thing. They could be looking in your direction, wondering if they turn the damn stove off. That funky face they're making may not have anything to do with you.
Yeah.
Right? It really might not.
The other thing too that I wanted to add just really quickly before I lose the train of thought is, Christy, when you think about that person or whoever it is that you're looking for to get that that love or that validation, if you will, it's really about also asking yourself, where is it that you're getting that from? Who, what role do they play? And does their opinion of you really matter? Because, if there's one thing that I've learned with Brene Brown, if that person is not in the arena with you, if they're not going through whatever situations it is that you're going through and really give you the opportunity to say, you know what, it's okay, or I believe in you, or I know what's going on, or I see your situation, then their opinion of it doesn't matter.
All right. Yeah. And look, Christy just shared that they've hurt me in the past. Right. Yeah. And
so there's unresolved, there's unresolved things. And so here's what happens. We let things, we step over them a lot of times. Like if there's been hurt or transgression that's happened and it dies down and we get to some level of like normal functionality without addressing it, a lot of times we will step over it because that's easier and more comfortable than getting authentic and hashing it out. But what happens is that it's still there and it shows up in future interactions. So then you're always wondering, because it has not been resolved and dealt with, you're always wondering, well, is that new face about me? Is that new thing about me? Like, how is it related? And so that's why we have to not step over. Because here's the thing. Think about it. This is the Dani way of saying it, right? Listen, folks, if you keep stepping over shit, pretty soon your whole floor is nothing but shit, right? If you don't clean it up, pretty much that's going to be what your whole floor is covered with. And then you cannot function properly in any space because now all of your spaces have been corrupted.
Yeah. And sometimes even that whole, definition of cleaning it up, sometimes people just don't even know how to wrap themselves around that. And sometimes it may just even be as simple as forgiving somebody, it could be just as simple as saying, even not even to that person, but just having that dialogue with yourself. Like, you know what, you really hurt me. And it was a moment in my life where I felt a lot of things. I felt a lot of hurt. I was very sad. And even though through all of that, I forgive you because I'm looking to move forward in my life. You can't close.
It's taking your power back.
Taking your power back. And, yes, it's taking your power back. And it's also closing a chapter so that you can start a new one. right? You talked about
I know you, Jamie. So we're going to talk in just a second, but let me just say this. Okay. So one of the things I'm going to share with you guys a tool. Okay. And this is something that it takes more than just this live to get and to grasp. But a lot of times it's not. So what I figured out is that if I have gratitude, forgiveness isn't necessary. Follow me. If I find the lesson, because in everything that happens, if I truly believe that everything that happens in my life is either a lesson or a blessing, right? Either way, it is for my highest good. It's whatever I needed. Sometimes what I need, I'm able to get with like no pain and lots of joy. And other times, what I need to get in order for me to keep growing and whatever stings a little bit, right? But whatever that is, it's for my highest good. So if I can find a space to give gratitude for this thing, not that I'm grateful that it happened to me, but that I'm grateful for the lesson that it gave me and who it made me become, that I don't necessarily need to forgive that person or that situation, right? And then the other piece of it too. So one of the most powerful tools I learned was when I went through the Landmark Forum. And we went through this process where we invite people into a new possibility. And what I have found is the best way to have this reconciliation and to deal with it and to clear this space is to take ownership of it and remove any blame from the other person, right? So if I say to the person, I forgive you, they're like, shit, I didn't do nothing wrong. Like, don't be putting it all on me. Like, I don't need you to forgive me, right? Right? That's what I forgive you. I don't need you to be the bigger person and forgive me. I'm good, right? So that's that human reaction. So instead of making it about, oh, I'm going to move on and because I need to move forward in my life, so I'm going to forgive you. Instead of doing that, because people will sometimes have bad reactions, right? I take ownership of the story that I've made up about that person, about the experience, and about what has happened, right? So I might approach it and say, hey, listen, I want to talk to you for a second, and I would like to share something with you. It's not about you, it's about me. And it's about the story that I made up about what happened between us, right? And the story that I made up is that when you said blah, 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 that meant you didn't care about me. You weren't concerned about how I felt. You didn't give a damn about our friendship or our relationship. I made up this story because that's what we do, guys. In the absence of data, we make up stories, right? And that story has cost us our friendship. That story has cost us, 8 years of a relationship. That story has cost us girls' night out. Whatever the story has cost you, it's sharing with that person, look what we missed out on. Look what we could have had all this time because we didn't deal with this stuff, right? And then say, I don't want that to happen. I don't want to miss out on that. I want you in my life because listen, folks, people want to know that you desire to have them in your life. People want to know that they are valuable and that they mean something to you, right? So, hey, I want you in my life, right? And we can create what that looks like together, a whole brand new possibility. So I'm inviting you to do that with me right now, right? And then you get to co-create something completely brand new together. I have done that in 2 of the most difficult places in my life, and it worked both times. One of them took a little bit longer. But let me tell you what, the fact that neither of them was a meltdown and I didn't get cussed out or hung up on or anything like that, it was a miracle. So it's thinking about things from that perspective and offering a place to create something new.
Yeah, I think it's really not making it about the other person. I think in my mind, what you just said, Dani, the biggest word is ownership. Like take extreme ownership of your own emotional space. If you are offended or hurt, there's empowerment in that place because you have the power to shift that within you. And it doesn't take anybody else. Like even if Dani went to, and they didn't want to operate in that new possibility with her. And they said, no way, girl, I'm done with you. It's over. no problem. But it's taking the ownership yourself and saying, okay, that's your choice. And you're just going to trust the process, trust the timing. And I also want to say too, two quick things is, one is I think we often think that things are happening to us, right? When the world is colliding, when our relationships are in disharmony, when, things just don't work for some reason, when you just had that horrible day that just shit just keeps falling, you keep stepping in it over and over again. When we it's so easy to feel like a victim of our circumstance or a victim of other people's behaviors or choices. But there's no power in that space for you. It's really about how can I empower myself, right? And recognize that these things are happening for me, that these things are moving my life forward. And I just have to shift my mindset and recognize that this jerk in my life, he's showing up for me.
Yes.
Because I have to find a part of myself that needs to rise above and over. I've got to find, and that's within you. And we question that so much, but a lot of times the work, the unpacking is really not about the fix. I heard this quote today, listening to one of Brene Brown's podcasts, and it was from Albert Einstein. She actually quoted Albert Einstein, and he talked about if he had a problem in front of him, and he had an hour to fix it, he would spend 55 minutes of that hour defining the problem and 5 minutes fixing it. Because oftentimes we're dealing with symptoms because we're not willing to get vulnerable and go within ourselves without tapping out. You've got to be willing to go deeper. You've got to be willing to get curious and uncover things and ask yourself the hard questions.
Yeah.
I really do just encourage you guys to recognize, I love the whole it's happening to me and shifting that to it's really happening for you. Like Dani talked about a lesson earlier. There's something like one question I love from a book called Positive Intelligence is how can I make this crisis that's right in front of me right now be the best thing that has ever happened to me? How can you take what's in front of you? How can you take this disharmony in this relationship and this past hurt with this person be the best thing, be a turning point in your life for you to show up for yourself differently? So it's again, and I get this from Dani, is who are you choosing to become?
That statement for me, that figuring out who I desire to be, I cannot tell you how empowering defining that is for you. When I defined for myself who I desired to be in this life, it changes everything. I can remember going on a trip with my mom on our family reunion trip, and we had the kids with us and they were young. It was Bella's first big trip, and she was sick and Dominic was sick, but we were going and we'd driven all these miles from Tennessee to Iowa, and then from Iowa to Missouri. And those of you guys who know me know I've had 4 knee surgeries and back procedures, and my body was killing me. I mean, just my pain level was like, grrr. And by this time, everybody's grumpy. I got sick babies. Holy shit. We can't do family for too long anyway. And I remember waking up in the hotel room that morning and just hurting everywhere. And I got on the floor on my knees and I put my head on the floor. And I kept saying, who do I desire to be? Who do I desire to be? Because who I desire to be determines how I must be in the face of things, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not about whether someone deserves for me to cuss them out. It's not about whether someone deserves for me to whip their ass. It's not about whether someone deserves any of that. It is simply, who do I desire to be? Mm-hmm. Because who I desire to be will determine how I am. Yeah. And on some days, I'll be honest, on some days, I'm like, okay, today I desire to be in your ass. Like today, that's who you're getting today. And I'm good with it, right? Because that is being human, right? We're not always going to choose that positive, like, everything is great. Like it's not always going to be that way.
And, you know, I just wanted to add really quick because, you know, I listen to Tony Robbins a lot, and he talks about how the quality of, you know, our emotions is really dependent on the quality of our life, right? And it's okay for us to feel sad. Like, sad is an emotion. It's okay for us to be upset about a situation. The important thing is to really be aware of that and not allow it to consume you. So he says, give yourself 90 seconds to feel the way that you do, to do the things that you gotta feel, and then jump into that gratitude state, right? You've got to think of it almost like a mood elevator, right? Your highest self is the gratitude, right? Your highest self is gratitude. And probably your lowest self is like, gosh, I mean, depression or like judgment or negativity. So your goal is to always rise up that elevator, go up to the first level, second level, third level, fourth level, then jump into that curiosity and interested state, right? And then, you know, be grateful, but you're not always going to be there. It's really important for you to be aware, like what's happening to me right now. And on another note, you know, one of the things for me that had a huge impact in my life was really along those lines, Dani, of who do I want to become? And I think for me, the point of transition, if you will, or breakthrough in my mind was when I realized that I already had everything that I needed within me to succeed. It was just me getting in my own way and allowing the thoughts and beliefs of other people to really define where I was going and what I was doing. And the moment that I was really able to, through life circumstances and experiences, recognize, gosh, I have everything that I need within me to succeed. Now my job, my responsibility is to believe in myself, to take ownership, and to know that I've got that tool within me, and I've just got to marinate it and continue to let it grow.
Yeah.
That was a big transition.
Real quick, because as y'all can see, when we get together, we can do this shit for hours, but we're not going to do it for hours, even though it's good conversation. I wanted to share what coaching looks like, what conversations that help you unpack things, and what tools look like that are real, that are available to you for practical application. I want to cover two things really quickly. One is we were talking about how we always make everything about us, right? We always self-blame. We always take all the responsibility. We do that from the time that we're babies because, so think about this. When you're a baby, and this is when I was, y'all know, I also love Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements is one of my favorite books. And when he talks about not taking anything personal, right? Anything, the good or the bad. So think about it like this. When you're a baby and your mom comes home and your mom walks in and the baby is like, and the baby, yep, see, mine's over there. Thank y'all. Look, we done pulled up every book that we're talking about.
Matt gave me this, she let me borrow it.
Yeah, see, I will say, I've sent that book.
I was over here looking for my book.
Yeah, see, I had y'all. I've already shared
it right here.
So
I'm gonna give it back to you, but it's right here.
When the baby comes in, okay, so the mom is there. The mom comes into the room. The baby does a little dance or coos, and the mom is like, oh, and all happy. And the baby's like, oh, yay, I made mommy happy, right? Mom comes home from work one day, right? Baby coos and all, does a little dance, and mama doesn't go, oh, my baby, mama doesn't smile. The baby goes, wait, what did I do wrong? Did I not coo the right way? Did I not dance the right way? And baby doesn't know. Maybe mama lost her job. Maybe mommy got into a car wreck. Maybe baby doesn't know what else has happened. And we do that all the time. We do it even as adults. We see people, and if they don't greet us the way that they normally greet us, it's like, well, what the hell is that? You don't know anything else that is going on in that person's life, right? But we always make it about us. So if the first thing is just to be other people centered and remember that the world does not revolve around each of us individually. And then to piggyback what Cindy was saying about emotions and giving yourself 90 seconds, there's a scientific reason for that. And it's because any emotion that you feel, you can Google this shit, any emotion that you feel, when your body releases that chemical, it stays active in your system for 90 seconds. If you stay sad, mad, happy, or whatever longer than 90 seconds, it's because your brain is replaying that thought process and your body keeps pushing that chemical out because your brain keeps telling it to. So think about that.
That's very similar, right? With Christy, where we've been hurt, and I think we can all say that we've all been hurt at some point in our lives, and we've all held on to it and made it change the relationship with the person. Is at that point too, it's really, I just listened to some really great brain science, Dani, on babies, and it's really about are you happy to see me? That's what, and so like the left side of children's brain, 18 months or below, is actually it connects with the left side of the adult's brain. Like, this is so cool the way that we're built, and it's really gauging on, are you happy to see me?
Yeah.
And if you're not happy to see me, then at that point in time, it's like left eye to left eye. At that point in time, the baby starts to read the other person's emotion on their face.
On their face.
And that at that space is where they begin to see, and the question is, did your parents help you learn to return to joy? Ooh. If you did not learn to return to joy, then it's going to be challenging to learn how to get back to that gratitude space. Right? Because you've got to stop remembering your future, right? Yeah. Stop remembering your future. And because you just weren't taught. So there's nothing wrong with you. Just like Dani talked about earlier, is our parents, for most human beings on the planet, we do the best we can with what we know. Yep. We don't wake up in the world and say, most people do not wake up in the world and put their feet on the floor and say, I can't wait to piss off everyone around me today. I can't wait. Most of us don't do that, right? I can't wait to hurt somebody. But it's really about, when I heard that, I was just like, wow, like, and it's returning to joy. And it's a skill. It's a skill.
It is a skill. And like Dominic feels very big emotions. And I'll be honest, they are trying for me because I can't do the whole crying and shit for a real long time. It's a struggle for me. And so literally yesterday I was Googling how to help children with big emotions, right? I was, because I was like, I cannot.
Good for you getting curious though. That's awesome.
Yes, because I was like, I got to fix this. Whatever this is right here, we need some tools, right? But one of the things that I will say to him is I'll say, listen, I remember when he was 3, we would be, it was when I lived in my other place, Natty. And I would say, listen, he would be crying and I would say, are you ready? If you're ready, then we can, he might be upset because he got in trouble or fussed at or something. And I would say, are you ready? Because if you're ready, we can go back to playing and we can have fun and we can be happy, but let me know when you're ready. And he actually at 3 would look at me and say, I'm not ready yet, Tutu. And I would say, okay. And he would keep crying. And I would say, let me know when you're ready. And he would say, and then eventually he'd go, okay, Tutu, I ready. And I would say, okay, baby. And what I've found now is, as he's gotten older, it's more challenging for him, because if that is not consistently reinforced and they are not given practical tools, they lose it, because as we grow, we pick up so many things from our environments and the people around us that we forget these things. And they have really big emotions just like we do. And I think sometimes we forget that about kids. So check this out, guys. We're going to wrap up. We've been on this joke for almost 2 hours. I know we had technical difficulties and all of that good stuff. We will do this again. Maybe this is something we do every other week or once a month or something like that. To bring you guys some things of value, some tools and some resources and some processes. The books that we talked about today, Daring Greatly by Brene Brown is awesome. Welcome back, Brandy. Positive Intelligence is amazing. When you hear us talk about balcony and basement, It's about how you are viewing the situations that you're in right now. So if you are thinking from a negative perspective and there's like negative emotion going on and you can't see your way out, think of it like physically being in a basement. If you go downstairs, basements are normally dark. They don't have windows. You can't see your way out. They're smelly and mildewy, like ain't shit down there you really want, just stuff you've packed up and left, right? And so when you can recognize, like there are times I've called Daddy and be like, listen, I know I'm in the basement right now, but I just need you to be here with me for like a second. Because let me tell you about this bullshit, right? But the key is to be aware. Like if you know you're in the basement, then you know that you can get out. But if you don't know you're there, you're just stuck there, right? But so then we talk about being on the balcony. Now think about it literally. If you go upstairs and you get on the balcony, you can see all the roads available for you to travel, the ones that have already been paved, the ones that haven't, and all of the possibilities that are available to you. And so when we are looking at the things in our lives, we want to talk about, are we looking at them from the balcony or the basement? So we're going to be talking about so much more of those things. You can follow both of them on Instagram at, hold on a second. Oh, where did it go? There it is. Okay, so those are their Instagrams. So Dr. Cindy Garcia, Natalie H. Bruno. Of course, you can follow them on Facebook as well. Clubhouse is another one. All of those good things. So you can reach us there. Any of those things. And hopefully this was beneficial to you. If you are looking for a coach, looking to create a course, Cindy is your girl for courses. Like she legit is your girl. And I almost gave y'all my little acronym tonight, but I'm not because I'm waiting on my deck to get here. So, but yeah, so if you are looking for any of those things, and even if you're not sure, hit us up. We'll do a little free consult call and see what's available.
I was going to say, too, if you guys have topics or something that I have to say, Daniel, you've been like, everyone's been so wonderful, but I have thoroughly enjoyed your perspective. Thank you so much for joining and sharing. And thank you, Christy, for being vulnerable and getting on stage with us tonight.
Stephanie, Brandy, Christy, Daniel, who I'm sure we didn't catch all of them, but this is something we want to do because we have a lot. So let me just tell y'all something. If you don't realize that everything that's going on in the world is impacting you. It really is. And it's impacting our kids. It's impacting our babies, and so doing what we can to grow and to balance and to operate from a space of gratitude and wisdom. It just helps all of us. It helps us all connect better. It helps us all be vulnerable with each other more. And it helps us all get out of our comfort zones and maybe even meet people that can help us get out of those comfort zones so that we all can achieve and accomplish the things that we are purposed and meant for in this life. So that is all I got for you. I'm going to get off of this thing. You guys, y'all know how I end it, right? Be amazing, be light, be love. Peace.
Bye, guys.
Bye.